Ken Field, Root Systems. What's up, brother?
What's going on, my man? How are you?
Good, man. So, back, we've changed format, drinking beers, and it was Brokers and Brews last time you were here. Now it's Cup of Joe. Coincidentally, I think we're each rocking a Cup of Joe with us. So, you got the Starbucks. I got Starbucks too. It's just homemade.
Ads?
No, yeah. Look at the sponsorship, Starbucks, if you're out there.
About to pay. So Starbucks, if you're listening.
Yeah, they're it's a nice local shop. So support local.
Absolutely.
So before we even get into it, speaking of supporting local, and I didn't talk to you about this, but I'm sure you're cool with it. Ken, what's your Instagram page?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. It's Instagram's at Root Wixom.
At Root Wixom.
Yep.
So if somebody watching this subscribes to at Root Wixom, and of course my YouTube page,
of course,
they're not a member yet, they're going to get a free month on me simply by just subscribing to each page. Pretty easy. They don't have to do anything but subscribe to mine, YouTube, your Instagram, and come on in and check out a month of Root Performance Systems.
Right.
So
we'll put the caveat on there for adult only. Is that fair for you?
Yeah.
Adult programs and go from there, just because pricing structure is a little different. And
well, that's
athletes go on usually 6-week or longer phases and programs. So I don't want to put you on the hook for that. But
fair.
We'll hook up one of these adults that wants to come in, male, female, looking to whether it's increased strength or shape up for summer and get ready for their bikini or their time on the boat, whatever it might be. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's a great segue in, right? So, anyone that wants to go back in the page, they can do so, and they can see us talk a little bit about what you guys do. But let's face it, last time we chatted, you weren't officially open. The business had been open for years, but we were right in the middle of an old pandemic that I know we're not out of, but we're not really in the middle of it anymore either. And gyms couldn't be open in Michigan. So, lots of
say what?
I said lots of changes since then.
For sure. It's man, the pandemic is obviously still ongoing. It's tempered to some degree. Obviously, a lot of people are still struggling with it. From the different regulations, all those things have obviously a massive impact. Having the gym closed, a lot better now. It's hard to keep track of all the various restrictions, whether masks are required at times, not required. Seems like it changes constantly. What quarantine times are, if someone does have a contact. But it's good. It's good to be back in the gym and doing some things and build it back up and get everyone going. So, and we've been fortunate with it. We haven't had any COVID issues, fortunately. Some obviously what's nice is whether it's athletes or some of our adults that come in, they're so cautious with it, and they're very respectful of one another in the system here, and they want to make sure that they're taking it safe. So if they feel a little sniffle, it might just be that, but they stop coming. They let me know. They give me a heads up. They get checked out, get tested, and if everything's green lit, then they're back at it. If there's a delay or they're waiting or any type of suspense, they would wait it out. So that's really it's a applause to them, right, for doing that. It's hard. You get in a routine, you're feeling good, and I think it's probably especially hard for anyone who maybe has a close contact, but they feel great and they're cranking along at the gym, making progress, and all of a sudden they have to stop even if they're feeling good. But it seems to be working out, and they're coming back in and pick up right where we left off and go from there. So
yes, it is. Once we've gotten back into some routine of like quote unquote normalcy, there's a fear of having that stripped away, and so you contemplate, should I go get a test? And heck, I was there a couple of weeks ago with Brady, my oldest. Basically, he had allergy-like symptoms. It's really what it was. But Guess what? Those are the symptoms of COVID. So he felt like crap, and I said, "All right, dude, let's go to the doctor." And the doctor even said, "I don't think so," but they did the old PCR. It was his first, actually first one in the family. Knock on wood. And he's like, "Man, I'd rather get a flu shot than have that done again." And so, he tested negative, and we were back to life. But you had that 24 hours, kind of 48 hours, because it started maybe the night before of like, what are we going to do? What if? And then do we keep him from school? Yes. Does he get to go to archery tonight? No. And the same type of thing, right? You come into the gym, you're feeling good. Gym helps, right? It helps kind of fight certain viruses and stuff like that, anyways, being healthy. And now I'm going to risk not coming, even though I feel pretty good. It's not about me. I mean, I know this is like cliche now, but it's not about me. I feel okay. It's about everyone else and not making them, feel like shit. So
absolutely. I mean, there's a respect factor back and forth, and there's a lot of trust back and forth too. That but I think that resonates the way that we operate. We're not a big global gym. There's personal relationships across the board, and we have open dialogue all the time. And I want to make sure people feel comfortable. I want to be safe and comfortable, not impact my family or my business or anything there. But it seems to be working well. Everyone's staying healthy, doing well with that. I don't want to say it's life goes on as 100% normal, but it's I don't know, maybe if nothing else, is an escape where you kind of get in the gym and you get that opportunity where you're just living again, and you're getting after it, and you're getting the endorphins out and feeling good.
Yeah. All right. So we're using the word gym kind of interchangeably here, but you started with it. I mean, Root Performance is not a gym, so to speak. It's also not a CrossFit box, and it's nothing against gyms or CrossFit boxes, but that's not what you are. So what are you?
It's a good question. No, we're more of a boutique performance center in the sense of what I mean by that is we cater to both adults, are looking to improve their fitness, their strength, their body composition, their endurance, and we can nerd out and really get into it. But there are all kinds of different factors. And we also do the same thing with athletes, whether it's looking to improve stability work. Mobility is a big piece of what we do. Strength, power, speed, agility. We do some things here in the gym, and then we also have some things offsite at various football fields or turf settings where we're working with athletes on that. So it's really it's more about performance and improving yourself and maximizing your abilities as opposed to just pure fitness. So, and what I really mean is it gets into a plan. So whoever it may be, whether it's an athlete who is competing as a professional or as a college athlete, or they're a youth amateur athlete coming up, whatever their sport may be, or if they're a multi-sport athlete, whatever it is, male, female, we develop training phases for them. If they're off season, where are they at in their off season? And we're prepping them for that. So, for example, right now we have an off season hypertrophy program focusing on increasing muscular growth, contractile strength and density within the muscle, and there's going to be basically trying to get that mass the maximum amount of muscle we can on their frame in this roughly 4-week period, which is not going to be a crazy amount, but it's going to be significant. There's still going to be enough where we start to get that potential for maximum strength, which we'll then go into. So in this 4-week phase, hypertrophy is the main goal. A lot of volume training. Some tempos are driven in depending on what we're looking at that day. We also incorporate some power focus there for upper and lower body and application when it comes to their sport. Then once we phase out of that, we'll get into another 3-week block where we're going to go into more of a stability, strength, and power focus with some endurance principles built in, where we get into more heart rate reading and recovery base. And then it's kind of home stretch for a lot of these athletes. So that'll take us through most of June. And towards the end of June, all of July, we're going to be going in through more of a total performance package where we hit a little bit of everything and make sure that come August 1st, they're dialed in, whether it's And again, there's little variations depending on when they have to report to a camp or a combine or whatever it is they're going to. Most of our football athletes will be pretty much going, I would think about August 1st. We'll be there 2 days will kind of kick in. A lot of our college hockey players and the guys like that, or pro guys, depending on where their contracts are with, if they're in the American Hockey League, the NHL, whatever it is, they may have to report to a training camp, or if they're a rookie, or depending on where they go. Sometimes they might have a little more leeway, and we'll do more of a hybrid program during the month of August for them, so that maybe they report in September or October, whatever it is. So anyway, that's with our athletes. It's just constant phases that are shifting depending on where they are in their off season. And at the same time, we may have lacrosse athletes coming in right now, which a lot of them are in the heart of their season. If they're a high school athlete and they're still coming in, they might come in instead of 5 days a week, they might be a 2 or 3 day a week. And our focus there is keeping them healthy, keeping them strong, keeping their power going, making sure they're feeling good. So we do more of an in-season transition within that program. And so what's cool about it is we customize it to each individual. So they can be training alongside one another, and they might be in a similar theme or package, but it's specific to them. And then that can take it to another step depending on the athlete. So if there are injury issues, we'll coordinate with various PTs and doctors along the way to see where they're at in their progression, right? And there's constant communication there. If it's a quarterback or a pitcher where they're doing a lot of overhead throwing and that overhead motion, their program probably is going to be a little bit different, where we're working to solidify and kind of iron those shoulders, right? And make sure that joint is healthy and functioning. And we just go from there. So there's always our generalized plan of what we want to try to accomplish in this time period with whoever it is that comes in. We'll modify as needed, but the goal is never to truly modify. We want to fix and address any issues they may be having. And this goes to adults as well, so that they can, maximize what they're doing and have a transfer. And our adult programming really kind of works the same way, where we come in and we have a chat and we talk about what their goals are. We talk about what's realistic, what's not, time frames. A lot of people want things, right now. And doesn't always quite work that way, but it's obviously you got to start somewhere. And so we work on that, and if they're realistic, that's great. And it's a little bit easier. If they're overly, zealous, I love it, but we'll have a chat about what they can really expect as far as like fat loss and certain time periods, or muscular gain, or whatever it might be. Get into dietary issues, sleep, recovery, all those pieces, and just keep that constant dialogue going. So most adult programming, we set that up on a rotating schedule of based around a few principles. So we have on our lifting cycles, we have primary days that would focus in on certain specific lifts, like a bench press, a squat, a deadlift, an overhead press is kind of like the big primaries. And then filtered in or sprinkled within those is going to be accessory days. We're working some double stimulation stuff, where we're working some hypertrophy focus, some fat loss, and a lot of health and stability work as well. And then we'll incorporate power days, and that's typically challenging. You're going to get a little bit of it's a lift, but you're getting that endurance factor as well, and a little bit of an aerobic push, which helps with burning more calories, getting that fat loss. It also is nice to kind of change it up, and you start moving and functioning more and more like an athlete. And it's nice to have, right? So it kind of does a job of what they're looking to do. And I would say for the most part they like it. We'll get a couple. One client in particular, he knows who he is, who likes to try to guess the schedule and shoot me a text on certain days about what he expects or isn't going to do or whatever, and he always comes in and does his thing, and we go from there, and he loves it afterwards. And
Sure.
And he's doing great. So, but yeah, so we sprinkle that in, and then at the same time, we have conditioning programs for adults that mirror our strength. So if it's as an example, if it's a squat focus day, primary day on the weight room side, on the lifting side, on that same day, there will be more of a conditioning element that will be more endurance based, that is incorporating a lot of squat, quad driven mechanics and movements. We're not doing the same type of loads or weight as we would on the strength side, but they're doing that there. So if someone were coming in and they're wanting to bounce back and forth between different programs, it makes a nice smooth transition. So it's not you're not killing yourself or hitting one part of your body in one particular day and then blasting it again the next and the next and the next. So it really have this kind of nice undulating back and forth pattern of higher intensity days, lower intensity days, and going from there. So,
and really, if we're in there on a regular basis, as it should be, almost every body part is hit on almost every day. It's just there's focuses, right? So like on bench day, we may have focused on some sort of thing, whether it was maximum or rep or something along those lines, but we didn't bench with dumbbells, bench with barbells, bench with cables, and then call it a day. There was like a focus that was an area and then some other stuff, right? So
typically on, like, if we use bench as an example, typically on a day like that, that would be our primary strength focus on that day. And that can be accomplished in different ways depending on what phase one individual might be in. And this is, again, a cool part with our adults is similar to the athletes. Everyone's at different timelines in their training cycle. Whether it's they've been doing it for years, they're doing it 5 days a week, they're brand new, they're just starting out, or they're maybe a couple times here and there. So they have different goals and needs and wants and restrictions and whatever it may be. So one person might be on, let's say, a 5-3-1 style program. Another one might be on a more of a controlled program with tempos and eccentric and isometric holds. Another one
what's a 5-3-1 program?
Is it, well, a 5-3-1? I mean, it's Jim Windler's. I got to give him credit for his design of this, and I'm not going to get into the details of it, nor can I to that degree. But it's a principle where with strength focused, with heavy rest ratios, there's different patterns that you're following with percent loads that you prescribe to it. You hit your various patterns, and it usually cycles over about a 6-week period, depending on consistency, obviously, and it revolves around the big lifts. What I've done is taken things like that and putting my spin on them, putting my tweaks on them for both those specific days, but also the days around it. Because you have different people that are wanting to train 5 days a week, 2, 3, whatever, and we kind of guide them depending on what it is they're looking to do. And we have packages that also apply to that, whether it's someone wants to go unlimited or they're coming in 2-3 times a week, whatever it might be. But so the point being is, if someone is on program X and it's a Tuesday night, and someone else comes in at that same time Tuesday night, they might be on program A or program C or M or whatever it might be. So you could have 7, 6, 10 different people doing completely different programs that are designed for them. So it's a custom program within a group setting, and that's what's really kind of unique and neat about it. So you're getting more of a private, customized setting, but you still get that energy of the group. And everything is going to change a little bit. So one individual is going to be doing X number of reps and sets or movement patterns. Someone else might be doing something similar, but it might be, instead of a 1-to-1 tempo where you're pushing a weight and bringing it back down, someone else might be pulling that weight down on a 5-second count, holding for 5 seconds. And so it's a slower pattern. That person might have a 90-second rest ratio. Someone else might have a 30-second rest ratio, depending on what their goals are and what that specific program that we build for them dictates, right? And then the cycle continues. So, and once they finish one particular cycle or phase, we're constantly talking along the way, but we have a generalized plan as to what they're going to go into next and what their next phase will be, and it's pretty cool to see the results. Measuring strength numbers, body composition, seeing the changes and how clothes fit, all that kind of stuff is really cool.
And so, from an adult perspective, it's like athletes and kids training, and kids is a loose term here, meaning high school, college, anything younger than me at 40, right? So I might be a 27-year-old and call him a kid these days, getting old.
Man, feeling old.
but from an adult perspective, I come in, and I want to, get involved in the program, how are we going to know where I'm starting? I mean, when we're talking about any kind of ratio of what?
Sure. Oh, as far as percent loads?
Yeah, right. I mean, percent load on anything, right? Whether it's you telling me to jump on a treadmill to sprint. I mean, I think sprinting is sprinting, but at the end of the day, really on a treadmill, I might not be able to sprint at a 12 for 30 seconds the way someone else can, and you do.
One person might be a speed forward, right?
Yeah.
Zero incline and sprint to someone else, they need a 15 and a 15 incline or whatever, and
Yeah,
whatever.
some of us are like Ivan Drago, right?
Yeah.
And we just continuously increase to like an 80, percent incline at like maximum speeds because that's just how we're built, Others, aren't as fortunate.
So to answer your question, the way we determine those things are, it's kind of multi-pronged. So you have conversations with people as far as what do you want to achieve? Like, what are your goals? What are you looking to do? What's your experience level? What's your background? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? Right now, it doesn't mean I'm going to just cater to them 100% and say, all right, because you like this, we're going to be doing this all day, every day. And on the same token, I don't really like doing these, doesn't mean I'm going to force them to do these things, but we're going to try to work. If it's an effective movement or good for them, we're going to work towards those things and incorporate that. One example might be a lot of people who say, well, you'll get different spectrums, right? But you'll get one individual might say, I hate cardio. Well, why? Right? And it just might be based on what their experience is with it, what they're thinking of. To them, cardio might mean running long distance and things of that nature, and they might not like it, right? Or might be tough on their joints or whatever. So, but it's still important to them. It's important that we break up the plaques. It's important, for their cholesterol levels and their body composition to be able to incorporate those things in for both internal and external health reasons. So we have to figure out ways that we can incorporate that. So we don't do a lot of steady state cardio. We had a session today. Their quote unquote cardio side was 5 minutes on a rower. And really that was within that, it was broken in intervals where they would row, at a fairly intense pace for about 40 seconds, 45 seconds. They'd hop off and they would do 3 to 4 body weight movement exercises. So just some body weight squats, some lunges, things of that nature. And then pop back on the rower, right? And then they're just going back and forth on that for 5 minutes, which becomes, you can chunk it away, but they're getting their heart rate up and we're keeping them in an aerobic state. Or if that individual wants to push it and make it more anaerobic, they're able to. And we go from there. And then we'll give them a rest ratio. They come out and they're on the floor. And then on the floor portion is more of our lift in that particular setting. And they're running through various patterns. Again, today, 3 different movement patterns that are both strength-based, mobility-based, stability-based, and cardiovascular-based, where you mix them all together in small settings where it's 5 reps of this, 5 of this, or 10 of this, whatever it might be. And then they're back to the beginning. If they need a rest ratio, they can take it as they're going, but we teach them how to manage their heart rate as they go. And so that might be for 5 minutes. And then we're back to another piece with rest recovery ratios and everything else. So that's an example of more of a way that we might be able to get someone who hates cardio into that cardio side, right? And get that out of them rather than just say, all right, let's go steady state. And to be honest, I like going for a run here and there. I'm not a runner, quote unquote, but I also have had plenty of moments on runs where I'm like, man, I wish this was over. And I've got 10 more minutes or I've got X amount of miles left or whatever it is. So I relate to that. I understand that that's, tough at times. At the same time, you might have someone who loves to run or loves to walk or whatever, or do whatever they're doing, but maybe they're limited. So we work on things to help strengthen their hips, their knees, so they're maybe not feeling the same pain, or if their back is, that compression and the pounding is tough on them. We work on that. That same person maybe is scared to lift weights because either they're inexperienced or they have it in their head that maybe it's a female that's saying, well, I don't want to get big and bulky.
Mm-hmm.
I want a certain look. I want to be toned. I want to be, lean, or whatever their terminology is. And it's trying to get them to understand that as long as they're not a genetic freak who's taken all kinds of, Hulk juice or other things to enhance their body and their structure, lifting weights isn't going to make them scary and freaky and just automatically build all kinds of muscle mass. There's so many factors in, whether it's your genetic base and limitations there, your dietary stuff, your supplements, any of those things. So lots of factors. And then just like cardio is doing more than, shedding fat as an example, it's, it can, but it's improving things we don't see necessarily, reducing the plaques and just making you healthier, right? Well, lifting weights is the same thing, in my opinion, not in my opinion, it's proven to improve bone density, energy levels, metabolic rate, et cetera, across the board.
That's what I was going to say too. Doesn't the research primarily show that doing a workout this way, where you're incorporating some cardio aspects, like traditional cardio aspects, as well as lifting aspects, and doing things that are more heart rate focused and things like that, will help provide a stronger calorie burn throughout the day, a better muscular growth throughout the day, and I don't even know about the rest of the internal stuff, that might be going on.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially compared to just only doing one thing. Just like if you're only lifting weights and lots of rest ratios, and you're probably going to get stronger. Assuming the program's well built and you have proper progressions and all those. There's so many factors, it's hard to say, but in general, you're probably going to get stronger. You're probably going to build some muscle mass to some degree, right? But maybe you're lacking some of the cardiovascular benefits. At the same time, a pure lifting program only can be fantastic, cardiovascularly speaking, just depending on how their tempos are set up and their rest ratios and all that. And that's, again, we build those things specifically for people. But anytime you're just doing one only thing, you're probably going to get pretty good at that one thing, singular thing. But you have to ask yourself, can I be better, or what I believe you should, right? So if I'm only running, well, I'm probably missing out on some other elements, right? If I'm only focusing on flexibility and stretching, and I'm probably missing some other elements to some degree. And all those things can be tweaked and modified. And I don't want to put a broad brush stroke on it, because of tempos and rest rates play a major role in anything you do. So, and then percent loads and all that. So I think that was the other part of your question, though, was how do you determine what someone should do? So part of it is the experience, what they're comfortable with, what they like, what they don't like, what their goals are. When it comes to that next step, which is saying, like, if we'll use you as an example, and you're saying, well, I want to get stronger and I want this specific look, or I want to, whatever it might be. If it's leaning us towards the weight room side, we'll talk about your frequency. How often can you commit to come in? How serious you're in these goals, what's your time frame, et cetera, et cetera. And then we start steering you that way, and we push you into a program. Now we're in a lifting program. So the way that we determine numbers, whether it's heart rate or what your 60% of your squat is or whatever, is through testing, right? So part of it is raw specific tests that we're looking at, and part of it is also through movement patterns and postural analysis as you're going through different things. You may have really good mover muscles in a sense, but your stability muscles might be off. So your glute stabilizers might be terrible, and so it's going to be a limiting factor on your squat, depth, range of motion, strength, etc. So we want to address those things along the way. But typically, it's not a this or that format. There's usually a little bit of back and forth, and we integrate things a lot. So once we establish those numbers, then we have them, and there's constant rechecks and retests. Some of them we can just do based on how many reps of this did you get at a particular time, and we have a very good indicator of where you are or where you should be from a maximum standpoint. But again, it's all about training as opposed to testing. You don't want to. We'll do some basic tests here and there, but it's and they're important. but it's not something where you want to come in the gym and constantly test yourself. I see a lot with like youth athletes, high school age boys are probably most guilty of this, where they want to go in the weight room and they, unsupervised, free to do their thing. And I totally get it. They want to, they got the hormones going and they want to show off a little bit and see what they can do and make sure others see that as well. Right. But, if they're doing that time and time again, right after, every time they're in the gym, typically they're not going to see a lot of increase in strength because they're not training, they're testing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, besides,
you know what I mean? Fitness is in the same family where it's fantastic. Someone's going out and doing work, but if it's random, if it's if they're kind of all over the map, typically the results are going to kind of be that way. If you follow a specific training program and protocol, which is what we develop for people, it's going to produce results. It's going to produce adaptations and change.
Well, and I think that a big thing that's kind of incorporated with this versus going to a typical gym is efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I go to a big chain gym, I probably have to join a class to even get efficient, because otherwise I don't have enough space to have my own machine, a treadmill or a bike or an elliptical, something to really get the heart rate pumping, plus some free weights next to me, plus, like another spot to maybe do, some push-ups or some form of, sit-ups or something like that, right? You just, there's not enough room in a gym, even though they're significantly bigger than, your facility, to do that, right? And so what happens is I go in and I spend 30 minutes on the machine and I spend an hour on weights, and then I have to shower. And I don't have 3 hours in my day to work out every single day. And that's just for me being just a regular old guy. I'm not trying to, perform for anything specific other than my life, So the efficiency of coming in, having some testing done, knowing where you should be to maximize, the results. And I know traditionally people might think maximize results meaning, push a bigger weight or whatever, but it's not. It's all the above. It's your cardiovascular. It is pushing a little bit more weight, but it's, overall your endurance, your speed, everything. And as we get older, I think a big benefit to what you have going on is mobility is huge. Lots and lots of research showing how important your hip and shoulder ability, but especially hip mobility. As we get older, and you're 72, and suddenly you can't hip hinge. You also are a lot more likely to die when you fall and hurt your hip. Versus if you're 72 and can hip hinge and you fall and hurt your hip, you're in a lot better shape. But we got to work on those things before we get to 72.
You're minimizing risk. You're functioning better. You're living better quality of life. All those things are important. You're sleeping better, and they all filter to one another, right? Like your point on the gym, you're going to another gym or whatever it might be. It can be efficiency. It can be restrictions. It can be setup. It can be knowledge based, right? It's if I have real estate questions, I'm calling you. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Right.
If I have a toothache, I'm going to the dentist, right? You're going to specialists that know what they're doing. And it's tricky, right? You can look on Instagram, you can look on Facebook, you can subscribe here, there, whatever it might be, try to get some ideas for a workout. Is it the right thing for you? Hard to say. Are you able to execute it? Do you understand all the details to it? It's a little tricky, right? And so that's what we do is we develop that. That's why people have personal trainers too. The difference here is, while we can do some specialized personal training, I'm happy to do that. But it's more expensive to do that, right? So if you have a membership at XY Gym, right, and it's X amount, and then you plan on going there a few times a week, and or maybe you're going there every day, and you're really maximizing your value out of that membership. But if you don't really know what you're doing, or you want to take it to the next level, typically you're hiring a trainer, and that will, whether they're good, bad, whatever, indifferent, bottom line is that's an added expense, and that's going to add up. And so it becomes potentially cost prohibitive too, right? So what we do is our membership is going to be at a higher rate typically than your traditional gym membership, allows you access to, but you're getting all that custom personal attention and programming built in with it. There's no hidden fees or extras or things like that. So when you factor those pieces in, it's a fraction of the cost,
right?
When you're training somewhere else.
And every first of all, every boutique style, so whether it's a spin, a yoga, a Pilates, I don't even know what other things are out there. All those places are, they're north of $100, $150 a month. And those are the only things you get to do there, right? You only get to do yoga or Pilates or spin at those places. And that's fine, right? There is a purpose for things like that in life. But you're
great, and they're definitely effective.
Yeah,
for sure.
But your facility is going to incorporate the aspects of all those things in a different way, right? So like the flexibility that you get from yoga is different than the flexibility I'm going to get from Root Performance. But at the end of the day, right, if I come in and I do my job with your place and with you, I'm going to have more flexibility. So I mean, slightly different results, but all at the same time. So that's first and foremost. And then to your point, if I join a gym that's $1 a day or something like that, but I hire a trainer, the cheapest trainer I've ever seen in my life was $50 an hour, typically 75 and up. So 75 and up for an hour training session that you need 2 or 3 of a week. So we're at, let's say, $150 to $225 per week, plus my gym membership, now, and I don't even know exactly what your pricing is, and it doesn't even really matter. You're cheap now.
Our average pricing comes out to $189 a month. So for adult members, so it's $189, and that's all encompassing with those things is the average, right? It depends on frequency. So we have different packages that are built. If someone's coming unlimited, if they're coming 12 times a month, they're coming 8 times a month, 6 times, or whatever it might be, we have different packages for them. And then those packages are based on what their commitment is. So if they're doing a 12-month term, it's going to be at its lowest dollar amount. If it's a 6-month term, a 3-month term, you'll see a little bit of an increase. But the average way it all comes out is in that 189 range, and that's covers everything. So to your point, if it's $225 a week potentially, or $200 a week?
I came 3 days a week with a professional trainer at $75 a session. That's $225 a week. So $500,000 a month plus the gym membership, plus the protein shakes, plus the plus the daycare, plus the this, plus the that. So I mean, if that's your thing, if you want to go in and take Instagram photos and do your Tinder updates and stuff like that, then those are the right facilities, right, for them, because yours isn't. Not that someone can't take a nice photo here or there, but we don't join Root to start doing selfies and promoting my my newest yoga pants and my hot ass, So, so there.
That's not why people are in here typically and doing that. We'll get some photos up there on Instagram and videos and whatnot, but it's more, we focus a lot more on the performance side and the results. Whether it's adults, athletes, they really speak for themselves. But
I think another thing, that you were saying, and I'm going to go also at a different angle, it's something that I've talked about on other, podcasts as well. And obviously there's a whole podcast dedicated to this stuff. And that's kind of that mentorship, leadership, coaching. Michael Jordan had no less than 6 different coaches at all times, from nutrition to shooting to Phil Jackson to whoever. When we watch UFC or boxing, those guys that are in the corner are not hype men. One guy teaches you how to punch. One guy teaches you how to kick. One guy teaches you how to roll. One guy, those guys, they're specialized, right? And so if I'm going to really focus on my health, you need a trainer. And that's where you come in, right? That's where I come in, and I've got one. And to your point, you're not standing over my shoulder for 60 minutes. you don't really need to, because if I'm doing some sort of, I have a sweatshirt on, hard to see. If I'm doing a shoulder movement and my shoulder's way back here and I'm going like this, you can easily see that I'm doing that wrong. Come over, correct me, move my shoulder up, move my arm out, and have me do it the right way. You know. And then conversely, if I'm doing this and I'm like, Ken, every time I do it, my shoulder's snapping and popping and it hurts like hell. We have that conversation. So that's something that needs to be a factor for everybody as they think about their fitness goals. If all you want to do is run a little faster, then yeah, just buy a treadmill. Actually, don't go anywhere else. But if you're really trying to help your body and help your health and live longer and better, you need someone helping you out, man.
And there's clearly thousands, millions, who knows, people who are having great success just doing their thing. And God bless them, that's fantastic. But it's kind of the minority, right? It's tricky. So having a plan in place, having that guidance, the constant coaching, it helps, right? And again, to your point as well, we're not sitting over somebody's shoulder, constantly adjusting this, adjusting that, or over coaching them. It's typically in the beginning, if it's someone with limited to no experience, we're going to spend a lot more time with them, and keep a closer eye on them. But I don't know, I'm a believer in accountability. I'm a believer in teaching too, and gradually giving them more and more leash to go, right? As long as they're not in a dangerous setting or anything at risk, we want them to get after it. So I don't need to be all up on them and constantly over teaching or over coaching every little thing. I don't want to, they don't want me to, and I'm not going to, right? But we'll definitely address things as they come up or see little things. And like you said, it might be some very minute piece, but it makes a massive difference. Just have someone tell you to anchor your pinky toe into the ground on this thing, or drive your knees out and generate that torque, or retract your scapula on this movement, or whatever it might be. Little reminders.
Which are all huge, huge things. And as a person who's had to do physical therapy, that's half of what they do when you're in there is making sure your neck's straight, or making sure your shoulders are back, or making, those types of things. Physical therapy does a lot different. You can't go to physical therapy and get the results that I can get from you, and vice versa. Just pointing out that, the motion / form is key. And I've been around to see exactly what you're saying, where somebody newer, you're watching their row, you're watching their deadlift, you're watching, because they're not dangerous movements. They've been categorized by some as dangerous movements, but that's because people that don't know what they're doing, with a rounded back, and they're throwing the weight, not lifting it and things like that. Yeah, they hurt themselves. So they became dangerous, but they're completely safe when done correctly and with guidance,
Yeah. And right, they got to be properly loaded, taught properly, executed properly. Your body's got to be ready to do it. So an activation sequence, making sure you have those stability pieces all put together, and it all works. So knock on wood, but we've had a lot of success with that, and keeping people healthy and going from there. So, but yeah, it's challenging, and so that's where you worry about some individuals at times. They're just wild, and some of the videos I'll see out there on the web, and with certain things, and just hope they don't get too hurt. So
yeah, well, and also, I mean, what we see isn't always what is reality, and what works for one might not work for another, right? I mean, like, the fact that one guy, his training method is to just do maximum, like do 100 reps of maximum weight. If it takes you all day, maybe that did work for that guy, but it probably isn't ideal, and it's probably, not going to work. It's definitely not going to work for everybody. And so again, trainer, expert in the field, that's where you're coming in handy, right? Because not just to say, no, that's stupid, but to also point out what does work, why it's been working, and why it's going
Why
to.
not tweak it too? So we have our programs that are built and kind of ready to go, but they're really a framework. It would make my life a million times easier if it was 100% every single time perfect for every single person, but that doesn't exist. It just, and I don't believe it ever will, right? Because we're all different. There's too many variables at play. So we have our framework, but each design is going to be a little bit different, or a little tweak for this person or that person, whatever they might need. Some might need to take some away. Some might need some different movements. Some might need some things added to their program and their regimen. It all depends. And so, that's again where I come in and help make sure that's happening.
And I think the other thing too is like, don't overcomplicate things. I bet you if I had a 20-year subscription to any health magazine, whether it be a Men's Health, a Muscle Mag and Fitness, Shape, I don't care, any health magazine, I guarantee you that not much has changed in the 20 years. Yes, a few new techniques, or maybe we've understood a little bit more about focusing in one area. But for the most part, it's like we've learned more about our bodies, no doubt, right? So we've learned more about how to break down certain things and all that stuff. But like, it doesn't have to be all this crazy stuff that you're reading about, on all the news articles or online outlets or actual magazines or whatever, right? It's like those guys are in the business of selling, and they don't make money without having flashy, fonts and new, quote unquote, new techniques or whatever. But at the end of the day,
usually it's a tweak. I mean, like it's hard to reinvent things, right? On in this industry, or in a lot of things, right? But it's technology has obviously played a role. Science has played a role where we understand how things break down better, or better methodology and ways to accomplish certain things. But yeah, a deadlift's still a deadlift, and it's been that way for a long time. It's very effective. Then the question becomes, how are you going to incorporate it? What are your cycles going to look like? What are your percentages going to be? What are your rep counts? That's where different. You could debate, with someone, what's working or what's not. I have a pretty good idea and comfort level on what different parameters we should put on something based on what their goals are. But yeah, you're right. It's not crazy changes or got to be doing this, that, and the other. I think people do like variety. They like something or at least they think they do. But sometimes variety it can, like anything, small doses, but it's hard to get good at something if you're constantly changing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't want to be bored, but I'd rather someone be a little bit bored and have amazing results. And I think most people would choose that path too, than constantly engaging, something different, yet their body is not changing, or they're not seeing an increase in strength or anything.
Well, I mean, I'm not even in your field, and I always hate the boring, statement, because first of all, the hour to 90 minutes that I dedicate to fitness, I didn't do it for entertainment purposes. So, I don't know why I'm supposed to be entertained during this time. And when you say you're bored, to me, it means you're not entertained. And I just don't get it. Like, if I was looking for non-boredom, I would, go watch a movie or bird watch or something like that. I boring should never be your statement for, the workout. Even cardio, which I also happen to hate, especially running on a treadmill. And I get it. You're just in one motion and you're just staring at whatever's directly in front of you. Even if it's a cool TV show, that's all you're doing. So yeah, all right, maybe for lack of a better term, it's boring. But at the end of the day, I didn't jump on a treadmill for 30 minutes to, not to have this entertainment. I did it because I thought it was going to have some sort of cardiovascular effect on my life. So just drives me crazy. And I'm sure it drives you even crazier.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I don't hear it too often, which is nice. But it's, it really comes down to discipline. I mean, and what are your goals and what do you want to achieve and what's your time frame, right? And being disciplined with it. And that's a challenge, right? But and then also a little bit of forgiveness too, and grace forgiveness, where some days you're going to be off. not every day is going to be sunshine, and at least in Michigan, right? It's not going to be
Yeah.
blue skies and sunny and feeling great. And you're going to have some internal conflicts at times. You're going to have external conflicts. There's good days, bad days, whatever it might be. You might be having a good day in every other aspect of your life. You're in the gym, and it's just not coming together for you for whatever reason, right? So maybe you don't put up some amazing record numbers that day, but it's part of a bigger picture process that you came in, you put in your work, and it adds to the whole, right? Maybe it was a tough one to get through, but you make it, right? So the boring factor, I agree, it is a frustrating thing, but I think a lot of it also is the psychology of where that individual's mind is, where they're allowing themselves to be bored, they're allowing themselves to not like something or whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on that too. I think, you put a roadblock in front of something. I think it was Henry Ford, right, that said, like, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right, or something like that. So it's like, if you believe you can't do it, you're not going to do it, and if you believe you can, then you probably can, within limitation. I can't personally build a rocket ship. So, if I believe I can, I'm probably wrong on that one. But, with,
No, I get it, right? But it's perspective goes a long way, right? And especially today, you see a lot of things like, well, this is hard, or I don't like this, or whatever it might be. And it doesn't have to be in the gym. It could be, but it could be, I don't know, a kid in their school subject or whatever it is. Or I don't think there's any adult that likes doing bills, right? Or paying bills or setting that up, but it's part of our life, something we need to do because it provides XYZ, payoff, right? So you can procrastinate all you want and create anxiety and all those issues, but embrace it and just move on, right? So if something's hard or challenging, or if there's an injury or some type of setback that we don't like or want, you can. I mean, I'm not judgmental on anyone doing this, but I would strongly encourage anyone to, rather than have a pity party or feel so terrible about themselves in their circumstance and situation, or feed into that by talking to friends and loved ones. And typically they're really well intended, but they're gonna typically, yeah, that's too bad, or that's really hard, or whatever it is. You're typically much better off if you can embrace that opportunity to learn or get better or deal with something. So maybe it's a school subject that you're struggling with, but you look at it like, all right, this is a challenge, and I'm going to do everything I can to maximize my opportunity or get better at this. So if that means spending time with a tutor or spending time with a teacher or getting online, whatever it is, there's such a sense of reward from that too when you do show improvement on the next test or whatever it is. Same thing for the weight room or the gym or something that you find challenging. That's one of the best parts about overcoming it, right? But you have to be disciplined with it. You have to change your perspective and look at it as an opportunity for growth. So when people do that, they typically have a lot of fulfillment and a lot of good things come their way.
Yeah, 100%. We'll wrap up in a second here. I'm curious, and you don't have to necessarily even embarrass your own son, but you got a proud either dad moment or gym moment you want to share. And again, it doesn't have to be specific to Sean. Sorry, if you care if I said his name, but doesn't have to be specific to Sean. But I think that you get to see a lot of growth, right? So you're both a father and business owner, and you work in this gym industry, and you just hit on it, right? Like seeing someone overcome a goal. So it could be any athlete, it could be any adult, it could be someone, whatever. But I always think it's always interesting or kind of cool to hear success stories, so to speak.
I mean, I could literally pick one on pretty much every single person that comes in here, whether current or they used to train here and they moved out of town or whatever it is. Everyone has some story, right? Some struggle that they're dealing with. And I don't want to single anyone out because, I don't want to talk about them specifically or whatever, but whether it's adults that are having major changes in their body composition or strength, or a former runner who couldn't run forever because their knees were messed up, and helping them get back to really full function, and then seeing them go out and win some races and get back into it, right, on various circuits. And just the smile that comes across her face is super exciting and rewarding. Um, I can talk about Sean a little bit. With him, he's had a lot of things that as a dad I'm very proud of, as a coach I'm very proud of. I think some of the big ones, since we were just talking about adversity and overcoming some things, or he's had some major injuries, not from the gym, but just life and sport, right? So he had a pretty major knee injury a few years back, and I was just really proud of him for how he handled that, where he barely batted an eye. He accepted it, understood that this is a part of his story, but by no means does it define him. And watch him attack and embrace the opportunity to have, like, basically the way he looked at it was like, all right, my season's cut short. I'm gonna get this fixed, and he was immediately looking from a positive standpoint, saying, my off season just got longer. So it was more opportunity to grow and get bigger and stronger, spend time on the school. Maybe it was a little bit trickier to do while he was playing, improve his grades, whatever it might be, right? So that was really cool to see. And he's a little bit of an animal when it comes to the gym. He likes it. I think actually the day of that surgery, despite my probably wisdom or better knowledge, he was quite adamant that he wanted to go to the gym immediately out of surgery, so he could do a little bit of a lift, and that was for his mental state. And so we did, and let him do some things and watch him. But he was, I would not normally allow that or condone it, but he can also probably beat me up nowadays, so I have to be cautious on what I say.
It's also possible he needed it at that moment, right? Because to your point, he kind of accepted that he's got the setback and that he can't do things that he wants to do. And
Right.
so, it's very possible that he needed to have that. Like, I mean, we talk about it all the time. I guess full circle back to the beginning of this conversation and the cliche of a return to normalcy, right? So when you have an injury and you're normally doing stuff in the gym and pounding it, and now you can't. I mean, that's a big blow to you and your body, your ego, your everything, And so, you're right. Maybe it wasn't the best, but it didn't hurt him, and it probably did help him mentally, because maybe it made him feel like he's still at least part of what he feels that he is.
Help him with that, but I think moving forward too, it helps with just it's another experience. It's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. It's an experience and you can't control it, right? His injury was a non-contact football injury. So it was just a weird thing. It wasn't like a dirty play or anything like that. He non-contact, slipped, there was a wet field, and knee injury, right? And those things happen. So it was beyond his control. Can't point fingers at anyone. It just is what it is. And I liked that how he addressed it. Came in and moved on with it. And same could be said for lots of other people, right? One of the other things that was great, again, without singling out one individual, but it was a group with a lot of these athletes over the last year with COVID, and their seasons being on and then off again and then suspended, or maybe it's going to happen, maybe it's not going to happen. I was so impressed with all of our high school and college athletes that, and a couple of the pro guys that came in, and most of them were told, and the way the percentages were looking, is that their season was going to be done or not going to happen at all. And that would be so easy for them to mail it in and pack it in during this off time or this unknown time. It was so fun and so exciting to see how all these guys and girls came in and trained and stayed with their programming and focus. Their focus level was really impressive to see them attack and get after it, knowing that all the experts are saying you're probably not going to play. So what are you doing this for? Mm-hmm. To see them do it anyway and still have that belief was really cool. And then the other part of that is it worked out where they had their seasons. So those small percentages where that's probably not going to happen. Well, they were wrong, and they got to play, right? And that was really impressive to see as well, especially in this past year. But that's really a cool part.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. I know, going again back to a little over a year ago, when even I was told I couldn't work, in real estate of all places. I was like, all right, cool, man, time to get jacked. I'm going to have so much time. And it took like 3 weeks before I even picked up the weight after I said that to myself, because there was that lack of motivation, that lack of confidence, that question about why, all those types of things. So, we obviously, based on, the purpose of talking to you, we're focusing on, performance, right? But all these things, like you said, I mean, these are all life things. You can't just look at, like you said, an experience is an experience. It's not it's good or it's bad. It's an experience, and then you learn from it. I mean, if you have a record-breaking year in something, you still learn from that record-breaking year and do something different, or more of the same next year. And so it doesn't matter what it is or why it is. It just matters that it is, and that you've progressed. You got to just keep plugging forward, pushing forward.
And I think unfortunately, some of those negative things that happen, they tend to, as long as they're addressed properly, and we don't want them all the time. We definitely don't wish for them to happen, but they definitely can be very strong teaching moments and opportunities for growth, because they tend to resonate with us more than some of the success at times, right? So it's trying to learn and grow from what's working, how to improve upon that, but also when we do make a mistake or we do have a setback, it's important to not repeat it, right? To rather than sit there and point fingers and blame or assess blame or anything like that, to try to be able to come back and say, all right, how can I be better at this? Or how can is there a way that I can minimize my risk or improve in this area or whatever? So, I don't, we can definitely distinguish between good and bad opportunities or experience, but as long as you can distinguish it and then move on and, have positive change, that's what we're looking for, right?
Absolutely. Well, we started with getting your Instagram page. Is that the best way if someone's wanting to get in touch or wanting to join a gym or what have you? What's your contact methods?
So we have a website. It's root ROOTPS.com. So you can go there and contact us there through email. Facebook I think it's Root Performance Systems. We can get messages on there, and Instagram is probably where we're most active on social media, and that would be at Root Wixom, where they can direct message on that and go from there. We'll get in touch there and get them going. So whether it's an athlete, adult, if they have questions, happy to talk to them, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. And I know from knowing you, being in the gym there, seeing everything, there is really no too young or too old, because there's kind of like some programming for just about anybody. I suppose with certain exceptions, right? Like maybe.
Typically your high school age up, and you're pretty good. There's some exceptions, maybe in that middle school range. It's we do the same thing there and get them going. We make sure everyone's acclimating properly and moving at their pace and speed, and going from there. So we have our summer schedule coming out here pretty soon for athletes, and looking forward to a good one with that. Should be fun.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been good, and I know you got some training to get programming, so I appreciate your time, and hopefully we got a new member with a simple share or like of your subscription to each of our Instagram and YouTube pages, and new member, and bam, there we go. So
what do we do on that? Do I contact you with that, or they contact you?
Yeah, you'll contact me and let me know that they've liked your page and they renew, and then I'll see that they subscribed, and then we just go from there. So
perfect. All right,
easy peasy. Awesome, man. Good chat, and thanks, Ken.
Absolutely, be good, my man.